Hello there everybody and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Bulova 98B432 model, which is commonly known as the Bulova Racer. Now you see this watch has got very much like a Speedmaster Mark II sort of case to it. Thanks to the guys at Starbuy though, first of all, they did loan us this watch. If you are interested, you can get it from the link in the description. Currently retailing for about $629, which is a bit of a discount from the $900 recommended retail price. You can also get this watch on a leather strap in a dark or PVD finish, which is slightly cheaper. I think from recollection this one is $599, but very nice either way. Okay, so let's start off with the dimensions of the watch. If you look at the diameter, you're looking at a fairly chunky 42mm, 47.7mm from the top to the bottom, and 2.95mm, let's call it, 13mm case thickness, and then you have a 22mm lug width as well. Moving on to the specifications of the watch, well, first things first, the Bulova Racer has 100 meters of water resistance. That means you can go into the pool or into the water, the ocean, and swim with it. You do have a sapphire crystal. I'm not too sure as to whether it does have anti-reflective coating. And it's powered by the Miyota caliber OS21, and a little bit more about that later on. You can see there you do have two sub-dials. The first one on the left, a 60-minute timer, and the one on the right being a 24-hour indicator, and you do have that date window at the 6 o'clock position. So on to the on the wrist footage. For those of you who haven't watched my videos previously, my wrist sits at around about 7¼ inches. One thing I would say is much the same as the Bulova Lunar Pilot, this watch does wear quite large. You can see 7¼ inches is not a small wrist, but it's not exactly huge, but this watch I feel does look quite sizable. I don't necessarily have too much of an issue with that. I don't think it's obscenely large, but it is just something to point out, guys. If you do have a smaller wrist, then it can be a bit of a challenge. One thing to tell you though is that the case does sort of arc down a little bit, so it does fit or conform to the wrist quite well. Moving on to the case and bracelet, there's a couple of standout features, and they may seem like silly things, but first thing first is the little Bulova tuning fork logo on the bottom right hand side of the case. Just think it's this awesome retro sort of mark on it. I think it just makes the case for me. Don't know why, very weird, but I think that's pretty cool. The other component is that bright orange seconds chronograph hand. It is an anodized aluminium. It may not be to everybody's taste, but I just think it's a really cool way of identifying the chrono pusher that you need to be pushing. And like I say, not going to be to everybody's taste, and it's certainly not given any symmetry there, but pretty cool to see something like that incorporated. Overall, the bezel, you've got an aluminium insert, very much like the Omega Speedmaster Ultraman colorway. Moving on to the bracelet, we have got brushed outer links and then a shiny middle link. Not a big fan of this two-tone sort of look. I think it's probably a little bit too flashy for what is a sports chronograph. Another thing to point out is that clasp. It is a butterfly clasp, but no Bulova insignia on it at all. It's just plain. I think this was a really good opportunity to have that Bulova tuning fork logo, probably in the same manner actually as what you get on the case. Next up, we've got the obligatory Lume shot. So I've given the watch a bit of a blast with the UV lights for a few seconds, and I call it the cool blue that is typical with the Lunar Pilot chronograph. You can see here on the racing chronograph as well. It does have a healthy glow, and it will settle down into a little bit more of a sedated sort of look, but it does hold that lume for the entire evening and early hours, so low light visibility is absolutely fantastic. So onto the macro footage. You can see here the Bulova logo, and admittedly this is really up close. This is what you're going to see with your naked eye, but I did sort of see a little bit of print bleed on that Bulova writing. I don't know whether you guys can see it or not. The strange thing is on the subdials, and here you can see the minute counter on the left subdial register, the printing is really sharp. Again, super macro footage, but absolutely no bleed whatsoever. So not too sure whether that footage on the logo is just a one-off on the dial. One thing to say though is that on the date window, the finish on that, the etching on the sides, and that was very, very sharp. But once again, when we start looking at that racer footage, and again, this is really close up, so I'm being highly critical, I know that, guys. You can see it is a little bit rough. And again, just to go back to that Bulova type font on the top of the dial, you can see possibly some rough edges, which is a little bit disappointing. On the hands though, that was very good, very sharp, well finished, no sort of lume poking out of the recesses there, and the pinion was very good. Okay, so final thoughts. Let's start with the Miyota OS21. This is a racing chronograph, guys. It's designed to be able to measure elapsed speed. So for the life of me, I can't understand why they've used a chronograph that has a ticking seconds hand. Something that, just escapes me. And I saw this with the surfboard model, and whether any of you guys have seen that, but the same thing, using the OS21. For me, this watch should have had the same movement, which is the Bulova 262 kilohertz movement that you find in the Lunar Pilot, which gives you that mechanical chronograph movement, so the 4 vibrations per second. This just seems to be an absolute mishit, in my opinion. But like I say, that's only my opinion, and for those of you who watched my videos before, you'll know that a ticking seconds hand on a chronograph annoys the shit out of me. Anyway, guys, that being said, it is a relatively cheap watch, coming in at $629, and it does give you a very nice retro vibe. So all things balanced out, really depends what your preference is, but for me, it's probably not a must-have purchase. If they ever change it and put in that 262 kilohertz, then I'd buy it in a heartbeat. But with the OS21, I think it's probably something that myself and many others would avoid. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in a new video very soon. Take care. Bye.